Hey guys, another quick training video. This is a continuation of the video that I did on points of negotiation. If you didn't watch that video, go do it now. Basically, we were talking about the various points that are open for negotiation during a deal. Number one being price. And of course, you negotiate price based on days on market, the number of offers, whether the price is in or out of market. The next point of negotiation is typically the costs, the closing costs. Who is going to pay closing costs? Is it going to be the buyer or the seller? Now, again, depending on which side you represent, if you are representing the seller, it is your job to get them the most money with the least amount of concessions, i.e. closing costs, that sort of thing. If you are representing the buyer, it is your job to get them the best price on the home, the lowest price with the most concessions. So depending on which side you're on, you're going to do your negotiating a little differently, but you're going to look at really the overall deal. Now, typically the way it works is the buyer always wants the seller to pay costs. The seller never wants to pay costs. Typically, depending on the price, they'll meet somewhere in the middle. So from a negotiating standpoint, if the house is fairly priced and your buyer is good with that price or something close to it, you can typically ask for more closing costs. All right. If you're going to offer a full price offer on the house, it's not out of line for you to ask for all the closing costs to be paid. All right. If you are going to come in under the asking price, let's say you're going to drop down 10, 15 grand. And if you still ask for full closing, I guarantee you that's going to come back because they're not going to lower the price of the house and then kick in, 6% or whatever for full closing. So you need to advise your client wisely. Figure out first, what is the price that you want to offer? Then, based on that price and how close that is to the ask, what are your closing cost demands going to be? Typically on a house, let's say a $250,000 house, I would probably offer, if the house had been on the market a very short amount of time and there was interest in it, I would offer something. If it's 250, I would go in the mid to low 240s and ask for full closing, knowing that they're probably going to come back and meet somewhere in the middle. I've never had a deal go more than one round of negotiations, meaning we make an offer, they make a counter, we do a counter, and we always meet in the middle. Now, there will be deals where negotiations fly back and forth and they pick apart every different aspect. Again, price. Then, as we're talking about now, the closing costs. Closing costs are always negotiable. Negotiable? I think that's a word. So how much of a closing cost are you going to ask for? Again, if you've already decided on what you're going to offer price, is your price close to the asking price? If it is, you can ask for more in closing costs. Now, you got to keep in mind, the seller is not obligated to pay any closing costs. They can just say, the price is the price. We're not paying your share of the closing costs and just let it go. Again, typically after price, closing costs is the second biggest point of negotiating or negotiation that you have to work with. So you typically will put those two together. We will offer full price with you paying all close, or we'll offer this with you paying half close, whatever. So that's the point of negotiation there. Again, typically the closing cost negotiation is based on the price that you are offering or accepting for the home. The closer you are to asking price, the more closing costs you can ask for. Now, you can ask for the moon. You can come in with a low ball offer with all closing costs paid, but chances are, rather than negotiate back, the seller may just kick it back in your face. I've done that. I had a house that had only been on the market for less than a week. We were getting some showings. The offer was a low ball with closing costs paid, and I told and I mentioned this earlier, told my seller, these folks are not serious. They're just testing the waters. Let's kick it back. So always keep in mind that whatever you are going in with as a negotiating point, sometimes they're not going to accept it. They're just going to kick you away. Okay. I've had lots of customers go, hey, the house is here. Let's offer this just to get the ball rolling. And that is a lack of education on a buyer's part that you need to deal with. All right. They're asking $250. Hey, let's offer $200 just to get the ball rolling. Well, a lot of times that ball is not even going to be hit back over the net. I have had clients say I would not sell them the house if they came back with a full price because a low ball will insult. So again, this video is about negotiating the price, the closing costs. Those two are closely intertwined when it comes to negotiating. The other thing with closing costs or closing as a whole is the date the house closes can also be a point of negotiation. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time with that. That word. If I say, okay, your house is $250, our offer is $245 with the seller paying $3,000 in closing costs, and we'll close within 10 days. That closing date, the speed at which you can close, is also a good negotiating point because sellers want to close as quickly as possible. And a lot of the times they are willing to give you a lower price, pay more costs if you can do so. All right. I hope that was helpful. Again, if you have any questions or comments, drop them in below. You've got to get good at negotiating. It is an art, the art of negotiation. And just remember, though, that you are dealing with folks on the buyer and seller side who many times are emotional and not prone to logic. So again, part of the negotiating you'll do is with your own client. If you have a client who thinks that they should offer this, but you know they should offer that, then it's your job to negotiate with them to get to a fair offer, either on the buyer or seller side. All right, hopefully that was helpful. If you've got any questions or comments, drop them in below, and I'll see you next time.